Hi, my name is ShayLynnPaddie, and I will be talking about the Art Deco architecture style of the 1920s and the 1930s. This style was also nicknamed the skyscraper style because it was the first time that we saw really, really tall buildings. The skyscraper is meaning that it is 6 or more stories tall. So we're starting to see buildings that are kind of massive. And this is because we finally were able to use more industrialized materials. So this was the first time in history where you can see that we were melting metals into forms rather than actually hand creating the metal into the form. And this is where we begin to see the introduction of factory-made building products. And therefore, these buildings could be made bigger and a lot faster. The Art Deco style was introduced at an exhibition in Paris in 1925, and this exhibition name translates in English from French to the International Exhibition of Modern Decorative and Industrial Arts. And so this is where the French actually exposed all of their artwork, and this is where they were kind of revitalizing their own architecture and were showing it to the rest of the world, becoming leaders in building art design again, because previously they had had a decline in that. So it became popularized in America. The most notable buildings of this time include the Rockefeller Center, the Chrysler Building, the Guardian Building, and the Empire State Building, as well as others. This style is characterized by having influences in multiple different cultures, being a blending of cultures, but all buildings have a focus in geometric design and cubinism, meaning that they all have symmetry and sharp lines. Most of them have some sort of zigzags or triangular shapes in them. And then they all have the aspect of a cultural influence. These cultures can be anything from the Native American or Aztecian architecture styles to Eastern European or Asian, or any other classical designs. This type of architecture started to decline by mid to end 1930s because of the Great Depression and World War II. People were no longer able to actually afford to build these buildings, which is such a pity because these buildings were seen as an optimistic hope for the future as we created bigger and more extravagant pieces of art through our architecture. So now I will show you kind of the sketches that I have. I have multiple, so I'll post them here. So I really wanted to focus on the symmetry and kind of the cubinism on both sides, as well as the inclusion of lots of windows. So I used a gridded piece of paper so I can actually build the building from scale, but I couldn't find any information about window height or floor to ceiling height of the 1920s. So I just kind of went with a little bit smaller than what is average now because I assume that it was probably a little bit smaller. My first floor is going to be taller than my other floors. I wanted to build a hotel, and usually the entryway is this grand, big piece of art, which you can see by me putting a focus on the door. And then I used each level being somewhere between 10 to 14 feet tall. So I did do a hotel. A lot of other buildings in this time period were schools, libraries, office buildings, sometimes even houses. But I did a hotel so I could make it more than 6 stories tall, but still keep it to a minimal height so I could actually draw it. The windows, I wanted to be influenced by more cottage, English cottage type windows. So I wanted them to have more of a wooden frame kind of look to them. But I also wanted to draw from the Aztec culture with a focus on the sun because I wanted it to be a bright light and to focus more on the future in like a new day sort of way. But by the time I actually constructed my building, I learned, unfortunately, I am not very good at coloring. So I will post my final design here now. And I'm so upset because I took so long actually like using a ruler to get straight edges and actually shading things and making it look right. And then the second I started coloring it, it all came out wrong. Um, so the background color isn't supposed to be bright orange. It's supposed to be more of a tan sandy color because I wanted it to have that stone look of the Aztec or Navajo type culture from the deserts. And then the windows aren't supposed to be green. They're supposed to be more of a gray to symbolize that cottagey, homey look of a cottage. But you can also see that I incorporated a lot of zigzags and the cubanism into my side pillars, and I also included built-in round pillars that were very common of the time. I learned I'm not good at coloring, so for future projects, I will not color and I will use black and white because I am disappointed that something that I put so much work into turned out looking so poorly. Alrighty, thank you for listening to my presentation. I hope you enjoyed, and I look forward to other people's presentations and presenting again. Okay, bye-bye.